Hey, it's Wags with Ironman 4x4. I'm going to show you via the website how to install this Ironman 4x4 Pro-Forge UCA into your Dodge Ram 1500 DS. So I would pay attention. This is the important part. I always like to take all my electronics and brake lines, unhook them first, because if you screw up, that is what you are going to break. So let's just get that out of the way now. So grab like a body clip removal tool, and a lot of these little clips, you can either pop them out from the upper control arm like that, or you can unclip them, but I like doing it like this. This one just pops right out away from the brake line. There we go. Those are unhooked. All right, let's unhook the spindle or the knuckle from the upper control arm, and this is a 21 mil nut. It's got a hex on it, but most of the time, these bad boys will pop loose on their own. And the other thing too, you don't want to take this nut all the way off because we have to separate it. And if you pull the nut off and you smack this thing with a sledge and it blows apart, it could come swinging out, hurt you, or I don't know, hopefully hurt somebody else, if you're lucky. So I leave mine on a few threads. Let's go grab a sledge. All right, to separate this, you want to hit right in this region here. Not here or here so much, but right in that region here. I knew it. So give yourself a couple setups here. Both hands. All right, so here's the deal. Clint's always got the good ideas. Look, I like hitting this with a sledgehammer because it makes me feel good about, you know, hitting that. Sure. But you want me to use a puller, or at least tell the kind folks that are all internet weirdos that you can do it with a puller too.
This is more acceptable. You don't run the risk of damaging your ball joint by slipping with a hammer. It also comes out a lot quicker.
I agree with everything you said. Real quick, just to recap, did that get damaged? No, you're right, it didn't get damaged.
And how much is that tool?
I say hit it with a hammer. Yeah, how much is that?
Costs $10 to rent down at your local
Okay,
auto.
Daddy Warbucks. Well, I stole this from the warehouse. So find a warehouse and steal tools.
Well, see you later.
All right, so now that this is loose, you can kind of hang on the top of your UCA, spin the nut off, and then we can separate this apart. Oops. I like to put the nut back where it goes so I don't lose it or forget. One thing Ram did, which I love, and a lot of the domestic US trucks do this, is instead of having one super long through bolt that attaches the UCA to the frame of the truck, they did two shorter ones, probably just as strong. They also have encapsulated nuts on the back side. So grab an 18 millimeter ratcheting wrench, throw it on the bolt side, and then we can just loosen everything up, and those two bolts are gonna pop out. Upper controller comes right out, super nice. Just let that nut tab come around, it'll hit the frame, and then we can just work this all from the bolt side. So you don't need to pull your inner fender liner out to do this, but one thing I will caution you is you've got some wire harnesses here, so you always want to be really careful when you're working around UCAs. You should be able to pull this nut plate out. I'm going to just move that wire harness forward gently. There we go. And same thing here on the back side. These guys are tightened on there pretty good, so if you need to lock a couple wrenches together, go for it. Get you that leverage you need. These guys come out real easy. Cool. There's a nut plate. Feed the bolt out. Okay. There we go. Tighten that up. Boom. So before we get this new Pro-Forge UCA installed, here's a pro tip. It's called reading. So flip it upside down, and at the end of the part number, it's gonna say LH or RH. So that's left hand or right hand. These look very similar. just to kind of show you what we're dealing with here, this is the front left driver's side OEM UCA. If you put the right hand side there, you might go, oh, they look really similar, this must be it. It's not. Ironman is moving that ball joint back to provide you that extra caster and camber correction. So just check your part number, make sure they go on the right side, because you could put the wrong one in the wrong side. There we go. All right, this can be a little tricky, so I'm just gonna get the back bolt started. Then we'll line up this front bolt here, go behind this wire harness, be extra careful. Just a little bit of love. There we go. Another thing too, if you, like, I don't know what kind of impact gun would be small enough to fit in here. I would not try it, but when you're messing around with power tools and these nut plates, these things turn into like ninja swords. So if you're messing with this thing will swing around and take your fingers off, so be very, very careful. So we're gonna lay that down on the frame side before we go to tighten it up. All right, so grab your 18 and we will start snugging these guys down. These control arms, you're tightening something that has a bushing in it, so you do not want to lock it down until the truck is on the ground. So we'll just get it snug. Cool. Cool. You just want it snug enough so that the control arm will hold itself in place, but not too tight that it's gonna bind up your bushings. These Pro-Forge UCAs are compatible with the Ram 1500 DS and the new DT truck, which is the newer one. So we've included some additional hardware if you have the newer DT, because you're gonna need to use this to attach for your ride height sensor and for your ABS line. If you've got a DS, you don't need this extra hardware, but it's there. All right, now we gotta hook up our ball joint to our factory spindle or knuckle. So we'll slide this nut down. I like to keep it handy. We're gonna rock the spindle back forward. The trick I do is I'll spin this nut back on, then I'll grab my wrench. I'll try to remember what angle I had, and this stud needs to come forward a little bit. So I'll just put it on the nut and rock it up. There we go, we got it to move. Now when we drop that down, it goes right into place. You throw this nut back on, get a few threads. Perfect. So this is a 21, and as we're tightening this nut up, just make sure you can keep tightening it, but if the stud starts to spin, you're spinning the ball joint in the socket. You don't want to do that. So if it does start to spin, grab yourself, and I think it's a 10 mil. So I'm going to throw a 10 mil socket on the stud as I tighten this 21 down. The back side of this spindle casting, you cannot get a wrench fully onto it. So you have to use the open inside, which is a little frustrating, but all right, this ball joint nut, you just want to lock it down to factory torque specs. We'll hook our ABS line back up. This guy goes right here on the back side of that upper control arm, plugs right in there. This hooks right back into that bracket on the ABS line. And this guy plugs right back into the back side of the knuckle. All right, that pretty much does it. Just make sure once you get the truck on the ground that you tighten everything up so that your bushings are tightened at the normal ride height for your truck. Hey, if you want more information, or if you don't have a set and want to get a set, go to Ironman 4x4America.com. We'll help you out over there.